Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline MMA coverage of UFC Paris, headlined by Gane and Sergey Spivac, a heavyweight duel to determine the next title implications, most likely. Will Gane be back in the mix for the belt, or will Sergey Spivac continue his tear en route to getting his first chance at the belt? Welcoming back myself this week. I was pretty sick last week, so appreciate Jose for hosting. And it was just one of those one day things. So I'm glad to be back at it just as ever. And as usual, before we get too deep into things, let's quickly cover our picks from last week. My 5 weight, Aaron Blanchfield, let's go. That's all I got to say. Continues getting the job done and then makes a title shot call out at the end of it. Love to hear it. Give her the title shot, damn it. Outside of that, Giga Chikadze had a striking clinic against Alex Caceres. Got to respect it. Anthony Smith, eye injury. Looks like he can't even see. Still wins the split decision. Got to respect that. And of course, how many times was the replay shown on social media? Max Holloway ending the Korean Zombies fight and career with a third round KO. So a lot of those picks were correct, courtesy of Moneyline MMA. I think we brought you guys some heat last week. We're going to continue to do the same this week. Also, Justin Junior Tafa. I think that was one Jose really touched on. I shouldn't brush over that one. Junior Tafa destroyed Parker Porter. It wasn't even close. It ended up being performance of the night. Got to respect that. Jose, any notes from the last week's fights?
Yeah, that was pretty much the one I did want to touch up on. Was Tafa did come through and he actually looked better than what I predicted. I was expecting more the vet side from his opponent to come out, but the young Tafa got the job done, and that's why I had him at my rank as I did. I believe it was if I can recall was my 1 weight because it's the heavyweight division and anything crazy can happen in the heavyweight division. And this one I was like I was expecting the more younger athletic guy to show out in the heavyweight division. So yeah, he did it, and besides that, like you said, every other one touched up on, except I think I just missed one fight. That's it. I think it was the female fight. So other than that, that's
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah, that,
Aaron Blanchfield. You had Tyler Santos, I believe.
yep, that's the only
But
one
it
I
was a
missed.
lower weight of yours. I don't think you were that confident.
Yeah, that was actually yeah. So that being said, you know,
Fair enough.
we made some pretty good picks. Yeah.
And on the prelims, too, Michael Olajaychuk. I saw some replays of him beating down on Chidi Nioquan. You got to give him some respect because Olajaychuk is coming for the middleweight division. He also got performance of the night. So that being said, let's move on to what we got coming to you guys this Saturday. The card's going to be starting at 11 a.m. Central Time. They will be in Paris, so keep in mind these will be more morning fights. Last weekend, at least around my parts of the nation, the fights were going on, I believe at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. is when the card began. So it was some morning fights, and we're going to get some more of those, but the actual main card will bleed into the afternoon at around 2 o'clock. I think the main card will start 1 to 2 o'clock range. So that being said, we're going to bring it to you guys, as always, with the heat in terms of our weights from 4 to 1. I say 4 this week because just before the show began this afternoon, a fight was canceled. Lucas Almeida had to back out of his fight against William Gomez, and that fight was scheduled to be the opener of the main card, and it's currently looking to be replaced by a couple of guys that are having their UFC debut on Saturday, and in which case Jose and I are going to decline to offer in terms of that fight. We think just there's no sense in making a pick on fighters we may not really know much about, and the last minute replacement. We're not just going to sit here and waste your guys' time and give you bad picks. We're here to give you picks that we know about and have confidence in, and that'll be starting with my 4 weight. And just to remind everybody, my 4 weight means that it is my most confident pick of Saturday night, and the 3rd weight is my second most confident pick, and so on and so forth, meaning my 1 weight is going to be the least confident pick of the night. And each week those can kind of differ in terms of how heavy the weight really is. Sometimes I'm 90% in my 4 weight, and sometimes I'm 60% in my 4 weight. So that in and of itself varies, and that's why you're welcome to ask questions down below in the comments. We're happy to answer, and definitely be explaining as we go into why we have such fighter at what weight we chose. So as without further delay, really, let's get into it. And my four weight on this Saturday is going to be Benoit Saint Denis in a lightweight bout against Thiago Moises. I think Saint Denis, he's coming in first of all as the favorite at minus 146 on FanDuel right now. Thiago Moises plus 114, so a slight favorite. And what I'm really looking at here is the discrepancy in striking. I think really that Benoit Saint Denis has done a great job improving his striking game. He may not have an insane amount of KOs on his record, but I think he contended well with Ismael Bonfim before choking him out in the first round. I really think that he's going to be able to do something similar to Thiago Moises. I could be wrong. I think Thiago Moises does still have a little bit of improvement to make. He's not an older guy. He's 28 years old. I think he's going to need to gain more experience. Every really tough fight that he's come up against, I think he's been kind of fall short in. So I'm expecting Benoit Saint Denis to get the job done. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, Nick. So for this one, this is actually my lowest weight because I honestly thought like this fight could go either way, and but for this one, I am going with Thiago Moises. Reason being is I think he's not getting enough credit to where it's due. He's lost to Islam Makhachev, which is he went 4 rounds with him, and I think that's pretty impressive in itself. He did get TKO'd by Joe Alvarez, which Joe Alvarez, he's only lost to like some top tier guys like Armin Sarukian and Demir Ismagulov. So that being said, like I think he's probably not being valued enough. And if he's the underdog in this matchup, I definitely see some value with behind him. Both guys I think are pretty strong in the grappling department. Um, so I think for this one, Thiago Moises, I don't know if he'll be able to necessarily get a submission win over Benoit Saint Denis. But yeah, if I didn't say yeah, Thiago Moises, yeah, he's my number one pick for this, and he is coming back off two back-to-back submission wins. I don't know if he can submit uh, Saint Denis. So that being said, I think it's gonna go to the decision. He is my least confident pick in this one again. So I think whoever wins this one it's probably going to be a decision. That's what the way I view it. And but for this one, I'm going with Thiago Moises. I think he just looked phenomenal his last two fights. Not that Benoit Saint Denis has not. I just for this one, I feel a little more confident with Thiago Moises, and it's probably just because I think he's had quite a bit more UFC experience as well. So a little of that vet side, even though he's only 1 year older than Benoit, is another reason why I'm kind of leaning towards Thiago Moises for this one, Nick.
Yeah, man, and I hear you. This will be a really interesting fight. I could totally see with what you're saying on this fight going the distance. It seems like both of these guys are much more on the grappling side of the game. They both have negative striking differentials. Benoit has a two striking negative differential, and Thiago Moises about 1.5. So both these dudes are absorbing quite significantly more strikes than they're landing. And in all reality, they could match up pretty well on the ground. That's one thing I'm really curious to see. Benoit's never been submitted in his career, but to your point, he does have less overall UFC experience than Thiago Moises, and his only time being submitted in his career was by the current champion, right? So that's hard to deny the fact that he's very impressive on the ground game as well. So it really might come down to striking in the end, like unless I don't know, I just struggle to see either one of these guys like handedly controlling the other on the ground. It might come down to like who can throw the more like amount of wild submission attempts. Like I haven't seen enough of Benoit outside of his most recent couple of fights. If he's the kind of guy that's willing to like throw arm bars and stuff from the back position, I'd actually be really happy, especially to have money on him in this fight, because I think he could definitely catch Thiago Moises in something like that. His 1.9 submission attempts per 15 minutes average is a little bit higher than Thiago Moises, so I do expect him to be a little more active in those situations. Hence my reasoning to make him my four weight.
this one, yeah, it seems you feel really strong on Benoit that you have him. Yeah, he's your four weight, your strongest, and I have Thiago Moises. He's my least confident pick. So to some
One
degree,
way,
I
yep.
do agree. Yeah, my one way. I definitely agree with you on all the points that you made about Benoit. So I'm not too sold out on Thiago Moises yet. But if I did make a four leg parlay, he would be if I had to have a four leg parlay, and I would throw him in there.
Okay.
But that being said,
Well,
for my four weight now, this is actually the female fight of the night between Rose Namajunas and
Manon.
Mano Fariat.
Yeah.
So right now, Rose Namajunas is actually the betting underdog at plus 164, while Fariat is the betting favorite at minus 215. Uh, Rose, we haven't seen her in a minute, and the way I view it is she's still the best. She's come off split wins and losses as of recently. Besides that spectacular head kick over Weili Zhang. Besides that, she has been on the side of decisions more as of lately, and they've been close calls, whether win or lose. But I still think she's really good and still part of the elite that she should be able to, I think, walk through Fariat. I think Fariat, even though she's looked pretty spectacular in her last few wins as well, and she's put up quite the impressive win streak herself. The way I view it is that I just see Rose Namajunas possibly even getting a submission win over, even though Fury has never been submitted. I just see some vet experience in Rose Namajunas being good enough to actually bounce back and get a finish in this one. To be honest, Nick. So for this one, I do feel strong about it. Where I have Rose Namajunas as my four weight. What weight do you have this fight at, Nick?
Man, I have this as my one weight. I have and we're gonna disagree on this one. I got this will be a second disagreement in a row. I've got Fiorot on this one, and I would have her higher than my one weight, but it's just a simple fact that it's women's MMA, and I just don't have as much confidence in women's MMA picks anymore. Uh, Rose is a plus 164 dog. Fiorot's minus 215. That's kind of steep, but in all reality, it makes complete sense to me. I think Fiorot is completely a boxer, right? But she's fought someone like, for example, Mayor Buena Silva back in 2021 and won that fight via unanimous decision. And Buena Silva's a girl who has 8 submission wins and 11 pro wins overall. So she's the kind of girl who gets a submission or loses, right? And Manon Fiorot was able to deflect all her takedown attempts and get the decision win that she needed. I think it's very clear that this is going to be a boxing advantage for Fiorot, and will Namajunas be able to implement some sort of wrestling game plan is going to be one of the bigger questions for me. Rose has recently competed in grappling matches. One got canceled, one she lost. But to me, that it's not as big about the win or loss. It's just the fact that she's competing in grappling, pro grappling matches. That's really impressive because in all reality, those grapplers are way better than a lot what you're going to see in the UFC. So Rose could definitely get hands on Fiorot, take her down, and then I'm definitely concerned to be on the Fiorot side. But in most cases, I think that's going to be rough. She has an 83% takedown defense, and I think it's just going to be tough. I think she's going to have her way boxing and piecing up Rose to get the decision win.
I mean, I'm interested to see how the matchup wise will pair up. She's a bit taller. Usually Rose goes against fighters similar her height, like Jessica Andrade and Weili Zhang, but she's done it with like Joanna Jacek, and and that's why I think is that Rose is gonna take it. She stood with the best, probably not someone as tall as Furrow. I could be wrong. Probably Joanna matches up with her, but besides that, I don't think the size overall would make much of a difference. I think for her, she's got some big names, unanimous decision wins too over some pretty big names like Jennifer Maya and Kaylee Chokakian. So, and even Tabitha Ricci finishing her in the second round. Tabitha Ricci has gone on to win four in a row since then. So, that fight definitely aged well. In the way I see, yeah, Rose, I see Rose again that experience side of her. I still think she's part of the elite in women's fighting. If Earl beats her, she's definitely next in line for a title shot without a doubt. Then probably one of the fastest climbs to a title shot. But again, it's women's MMA, so that's probably why. But that being said, yeah, I have Rose Namajunas. She is my strongest weight. And I'm pretty. Yeah, I'm the most confident with this one. I think she's gonna secure her spot back at the top and possibly, even break a record and be a champ for a third time. So I
Hmm.
could see that happening.
Yeah, man, I can't get myself to come around to it. I definitely respect too that, like those who agree with you will look the fact that Rose beat Zhang Wei Li. She's 2-0 against who's widely regarded to be the best women's fighter in MMA in women's MMA right now. And granted, those happened back in 2021. I mean, Rose is only 31. She's not really getting old at all. She's, if only, getting into her real MMA prime. So there's a real threat there from Rose, and that's exactly why Firo is only my one weight. But that still means that there's no chance I'm putting a dime on Rose. If I'm betting anything on this fight, it's Firo. So that is Jose's four weight is Rose, and my one weight is Firo. We'll move on to my three weight of the afternoon, which is going to bring us to the main event of the evening. Folks, I'm pretty confident. Before I officially give the pick, I'll say that Cyril Gane is minus 174 favorite, and Sergey Spivac is a plus 136 dog in this main event. And that honestly comes from what opened at 175. This fight opened and still really stays at the same exact weights. The books got it pretty accurately. Folks, I'm siding with Cyril Gane here. I just think he's the better all around fighter. I don't think the polar bear is really going to be able to, dictate any of the striking, and it's really going to come down to whether he can dictate the wrestling. And he was able to do it against Derek Lewis. If he's able to do it against Cyril Gane, he's going to be a real threat. I'm betting that, but that's going to really be, to me, Sergey Spivak's only lane to getting the win. And I think Cyril Gane could knock him out before that becomes a threat. Cyril Gane's striking differential is just never really before seen in the UFC. And he's got a size advantage over Spivac as well. And I just don't think Spivac is going to be able to pull a John Jones necessarily and just manhandle him, because there's just no one else in the world like John Jones. So Cyril Gane comfortably sits at my three weight. Jose, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I actually agree with you. He's my three weight as well. I'm not as confident because yeah, anything when he fought Tai Tuivasa, he got clipped a couple times himself. He got dropped even, and Sergey Spivak has a win over Tai Tuivasa as well, and Sergey can he can possibly clip Sorogan too, or yeah, like if he gets him against the cage, like you said, I don't think he's going to completely manhandle Sorogan right off the bat, but I can see him over time slowly taking Sorogan down against the cage and kind of slowly making his way up to a submission because Sorogan has, as we've seen, lost to submission, and so it is doable. And Spivak, he's got some pretty impressive submissions on his record, and that's definitely a wrong possibility. If he wins this, I can see it being via submission, but if it makes it to the end of all five rounds, then I definitely think Gane would win this via unanimous decision, especially because he does have a 3-inch reach advantage, and his striking is definitely far better than Spivak's. He lands over five significant strikes per minute. So just a little more than Spivak, and he definitely absorbs less than Spivak as well. So I think Strogan's definitely going to use his reach advantage in this fight and definitely keep at bay and just keep the striking game up. I think that's his best clear path to victory. He's definitely needs to work on that wrestling for sure because I think both Francis Ngannou and definitely John Jones showed that is definitely a hole in his game, and Spivak would be crazy not to take advantage of that, especially with his grappling. He on average throws slightly about like five takedowns per three round fights. So he has a 65% takedown accuracy and overall 70% takedown defense. So definitely Spivak is the better wrestler out of these two. I just don't yeah like and I just don't know if he's going to utilize that skill set in an effective manner against Cyril Gane. I don't know if he has the same, definitely not the same wrestling as John Jones, and I would have actually been interested to see Francis Ngannou and Spivak and compare their wrestling because Francis Ngannou, to be honest, also does not have the best did not have the best wrestling at all, but it definitely helped him a lot get that win over Cyril Gane. So I do have Cyril Gane as my four weight, as my three weight, like yourself. But if he slips up, I can definitely see Spivac running away with this one too.
I hear you, man. I think I'm more confident than you in the end. Then, so that just kind of gives the listeners an idea of our three weights can still be different confidence levels. Because I'm pretty confident, man. I think Spivak's stats are a little skewed, kind of like Curtis Blades, in the sense that most of these heavyweight dudes have no clue what they're doing in terms of wrestling. So Spivak's able to land 6 takedowns on guys like Tai Tuivasa, Jared Vanderaa, Greg Hardy, and Derek Lewis. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, well, of course, those dudes don't even know what they're doing. They stand there and they strike, and then they get taken down and try to get up. You know, when Sergey Spivak lost to Tom Aspinall, neither guy landed a takedown. You know, if Spivak's able to take down Tom Aspinall, that's kind of a different story, but he isn't. So, you know, once I see more of that, in fact, Sergey also fought Alexei Olenek, and Alexei Olenek was the one to land a takedown on Spivak, not the other way around. So I guess my point there is that I think Sergey Spivak's statistics in terms of wrestling are a little skewed to make him look a little better than he truly is. And I'm also betting on the fact, a little bit at least, by putting Gane as my confident three weight, that he's at least practicing and training to get better at wrestling. I mean, how do you get beat twice for the belt, right? And not train at the one thing that hurts you the most? I think he'd be absolutely crazy to not be hammering away and spending at least half his time between striking and doing other things and wrestling, because it's just very clearly going to be the next thing for the heavyweights if you're going to want to make a big long run in the division, because guys like Tom Aspinall and the Polar Bear are going to average 4+ takedowns a fight, and if you can't contend with that, you're going to lose, or you have to have Francis Ngannou power. So for all those reasons, I'm pretty confident in Cyril Gane deflecting takedowns when needed, and you're definitely right. There's a good chance Polar Bear, if he can clinch and keep Gane to the fence, that Polar Bear will grind down a takedown. I could totally see it happening. He's still going to be a big dude, and as big as Gane is, the Polar Bear is going to be just as strong, or very close to as strong. However strong Gane looks, Polar Bear matches in just straight up strength. I'm sure of it. It's just going to need to be Gane keeping this at the distance, and perhaps the smaller octagon for the fight night actually benefits Spivac a little bit.
No, yeah, I agree with you. So yeah, so for this one, then yeah, we both agree with Gane for
We got
sure.
Gane.
Definitely, yeah, and like you said, yeah, definitely clear up on the Spivak stats too. Probably not what they seem to be. So for this one, definitely we'll keep that in mind. And then that brings us, I guess, one more fight to talk about.
Yep, since we're not going to discuss the opener for two guys that haven't fought yet in the UFC, it's kind of a wild card spot there. We're going to finish off by discussing the next fight in the main card after the opener. Volcano Zedmir's got a late minute replacement in Bogdan Guskov. I believe this is Guskov's first UFC fight. And against a guy in Volcano Zedmir who's he's kind of had a roller coaster for most of his UFC run. He's been up and down, and most recently lost to Nikita Krylov. And yeah, Bogdan is coming from MMA Series Russia and has recently won a few fights over there. He fought once in March for them, and this is his introduction to the UFC. And on top of the fact for this being a late minute replacement fight and him being his UFC debut here, I've got to take Volcano Zedmir. There's just no way I don't take the experience here. And a guy who's been there, done that with some of the best who have done it. He's fought DC, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes. He's lost those fights. But the point is that Volcan's gotten the wins that he should. All the fights that he's lost, I'd argue, are very difficult fights for anyone in the division. But this is a little bit of a different story. And there's no way I'm betting on a guy that I haven't really seen anything from, especially in the UFC. So my two weight for that reason is Volcano Zedmir. Jose, what do you got?
I actually agree with you. I have Volkan as my two weight as well. You said it best. You know, this guy fought for the light heavyweight strap against DC at one point, and he's won and lost some. He's definitely, you know, he's beating like some big names too. For example, like Paul Craig, Lair Latifi, Alexander Rakik, and you know what, Dominic Reyes fight too. That was a split decision too. So that could have gone either way. Dominic Reyes, you know, obviously he's kind of had a downfall himself, and I would actually say Dominic Reyes probably has had a worst downfall and worst UFC career thus far, I guess now comparing to Vulcan. But besides that, like, you know, he had some phenomenal first round wins, like one against Jimmy Manoa. So and Jimmy Manoa was the man back then too. So yeah, this one it's hard. Bogdan, you know, he's coming off like four first round finishes. So now he's in the UFC, and they're definitely throwing him a top 10 guy, a guy that, you know, who's been at the top, and, you know, he's only 33 years old. Vulcan's only 33, so he still has a lot, I think, left in the gas tank. This is a name he should be, especially if it makes it past the first round. Even though Bogdan has gone to three, he has actually finished someone in the third round, but he's not done that much. So I definitely want to see how he is past the first round against a UFC caliber guy, and someone especially like Volkan Ozdemir. I think Volkan Ozdemir is definitely going to win this in almost probably any way he wants. To be honest, I would say more either unanimous decision or KO or TKO. And if you know he gets the KO or TKO, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens somewhat early. Most of his finishes do come a little earlier, like in the first rounds. So for this one, yeah, I agree with you. I have Volkan Ozdemir as my two weight.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, I think the conclusion then for the money line parlay for this fight night Paris, is going to be Gane plus Ozedmir. That's probably gonna be a really good bet. That should win, and it avoids bringing women's MMA into the mix, which can be a really a toss up at times. And I know Jose and I disagreed on Benoit Saint Denis. I might be adding him into that fight for me, since I was very confident. But if you're agreeing with Jose, then just stick to the two leg and leave it at that. But either way, that concludes our coverage of UFC Fight Night Paris. Again, this fight's going to be coming to you during the day on this Saturday at 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And definitely don't forget to keep track of us, because next week, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. Next week, we're going to be heading down to Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, where Izzy defends his belt against Sean Strickland in UFC 293. We will have some absolute heat coming for that fucking card. I can't even. I mean, we've discussed a little bit of Ty during him being a common opponent for Gane and Spivac. He's fighting Alexander Volkov on this card. This is going to be a really interesting pay-per-view event. I can't wait to see Izzy out there. He's saying he will knock out Sean Strickland. No questions asked. So can't wait for you guys to get our picks for that card. In the meantime, thanks for listening and have a great week.